Hello and welcome back to the Level Cap Podcast, your podcast for level 99 games.
Yeah,
How does
it
that
does really feel like you need something else there. I don't know what it is, but yeah, let's not be redundant or anything.
Yeah, but that was accurate though. That was actually an accurate slogan.
Yeah, that was totally exactly right. It just feels incomplete. I don't know.
Maybe that's the journey we all have to experience. Because I am your host, Marco De Santos, also known as the Mechanic Critic, and with me is my co-host,
Brad Talton. And good to be with you again.
Excellent. I hope all of you had a wonderful week because today we are going to have a wonderful docket for all of you. We're going to have our Game Club game of this week. We're going to talk about the character of the week. And we're going to have our questions and news for all of you level 99 games fanatics out there. And maybe even people who aren't fanatics yet.
Okay, so everyone. You did the same thing again. It's both categories.
Brad.
But at least it didn't feel incomplete. It was completely inclusive. I like this. I think I like this inclusionary principle, Marco. It's important to keep all of our fans, even fans that might not be fans, in the loop.
Exactly, because somebody who's not the level 99 games fan is just a fan to be.
I suppose, yeah. I suppose that's a good way to look
at
it. I suppose that's a good way to look at things, yeah.
Yeah. So how have you been, Brad? How's your week so far?
Good so far. Just gearing up to make our big announcement today, which will already be out by the time this podcast reaches you, if you're watching. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
If it's what I think it is, it's gonna be hype. It's gonna be super hype. So if you're listening to this podcast, we highly recommend you
check out the Exceed Kickstarter. Site. Yeah, look at the blogs, look at the Exceed Kickstarter. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. My week has been filled with Exceed games. I've been recording Exceed games and uploading them onto my YouTube channel. So if you guys want some Exceed gameplay from a scrub like me, who's not as good as Exceed as he is at BattleCon, check my channel out.
Yeah, but as a BattleCon player, you can get into Exceed and enjoy it, and that makes me feel good about the game.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing that a lot of BattleCon skill actually translates into Exceed. But aside from that, I thought RNG would be a huge factor in making Exceed feel like less of a skillful experience. But actually, I think the RNG and the deck actually contributes to the skill experience, which is weird because RNG and skill usually are opposing factors. But in Exceed, I think it works. So
yeah, there's just enough certainty that the uncertainty lets you, gives you room to play. You can play a card and be about 80% sure that it's the right card, which is good enough for competitive play. I mean, when you shoot a basket in basketball, how sure are you it's going to go in the hoop? Like 75, 80%. So, and when you take a swing at a pitch in baseball, if you have 33% chance or a surety that you're going to hit it, that's pretty good. So I think that it can contribute a lot if it's done well. And I know for a lot of players it's kind of that Agricola Caverna dichotomy, like which these two games are similar. Which one do you like best? I don't know that it has to be that way. They do provide a different experience. Exceed being more the CCG experience and or LCG CCG card game experience, and BattleCon being more the board game like chess like sort of experience.
Yeah. I usually call Exceed BattleCon light, and that's not a bad thing. Like, sometimes, you're not necessarily in the mood to play chess, and you'd rather play something like more casual or like less intense. So, Exceed's that game if you're, looking for your BattleCon fix but don't have an hour. Anyway, let's move on to our Game Club game of this week that is probably as skill intensive as any competitive game out there, and it's
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls.
I'm actually only going to be able to talk about Dark Souls 3 and a little bit of 2 because those are the ones I've beaten.
Oh no, I can probably only talk about Dark Souls 1, so I guess we're complete.
Okay, well, we can talk about Bloodborne. Have you played Bloodborne?
Oh no.
Man.
I've watched a lot of streams of Dark Souls 3, but I don't think it's the same thing as actually playing it, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Like
as
that
a
in
franchise, all in all, I think like Dark Souls takes pretty much the same formula, no, and like
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
kind of like
it's
Final
pretty similar.
Fantasies. It doesn't really change it up between Final Fantasies. Like Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3 are pretty much the same game with just
Hmm.
different stories, characters. So I think that's how Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 are. It's pretty much the same game. You just have different characters, different boss fights,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So instead of talking about specifics about the Dark Souls series, let's talk about the Dark Souls series as a whole. What makes it successful? What makes it a great gameplay experience? So, Brad,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on Dark Souls?
Well, I think that it is. There are two really important things that make Dark Souls stand out. One is that it builds on a really solid action adventure foundation that already existed. So when you pick up like Dark Souls 1, aside from everything else, there's not really anything new to it that you don't see in like God of War or like Devil May Cry, like or these other action adventure games. In fact, on the surface, Dark Souls seems a lot less refined than these games. It's got less weapon combos than you can do in Devil May Cry. It's got, there's no environment acrobatic tricks that you can do in like God of War. Um, there's not like a lot of puzzles to solve or anything like Zelda. So the gameplay is actually a lot less than you would think or that you see in all these other games in the genre. But Dark Souls has been more successful than most of those games, barring Zelda. And so you'd kind of say, look, so why is a game with less play content more popular than these games that have more gameplay content? Um, and the what I believe is that Dark Souls took that core engine and really made that the center of the game experience, and they took it and they iterated it and they made it as well developed as possible, and then they put that simple bite of gameplay, or through that simple bite of gameplay, the combat with enemies, they built a very large set of design space in the way that the combat mechanics can interact and the way that the enemies interact with the player. And um, and so I think it by focusing very heavily on one thing, they made the game better than its peers. At least
Yeah,
in
I
that one
agree.
thing. Yeah, and that's something that a lot of designers who don't have the time and energy to make gigantic games can take a page from, because if you can take one good piece of gameplay and you can iterate on it and develop it and build it up, then you can make a game that plays better than a AAA title that has to spread its resources across a lot of different gameplay spectrums.
Yeah.
But another thing to keep in mind is the successor to what's it to Dark Souls, which is Bloodborne. And you think they would go into like more with Bloodborne, but actually they did a lot less. Like uh, Bloodborne is not advanced Dark Souls, even though it came after. It's actually Dark Souls Light, because they took away blocking and they took away an offhand weapon, so you only wield one main weapon. And so your offhand weapon only has one button, which is fire, and all the combat is on your right hand weapon. So there's even less to do in Bloodborne than there is in Dark Souls, and yet a lot of people believe that's an even better game because it's even more directly refined than Dark Souls is.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that unanimous thing that most people have about Bloodborne. Uh, I don't know what it is, Brad, but like something about just like simplicity in your game can make it way better than things that are too scatterbrained. And I think that's like something really hard when it comes to design. And it's something I commend you for, because most, if not all, your games focus on that simplicity of play and the complexity coming from that simplicity. So
I do a lot of design by cutting. Like when I take a new version, I like to just take out as much stuff as I can for the next version, and it makes longer design periods, but it does. I feel like it brings together better games. Um,
yeah, and it clearly
yeah.
shows.
Well, don't flatter me too much. I'm not
Not too much.
I'm not the master of this. I think Reiner Nietzsche probably does these core systems the best of anybody.
Oh yeah, we talked about him on the previous podcast. He's pretty awesome. I googled him a bit. Yeah,
Yeah, he
I
does
I
a lot
have.
of games,
Yeah,
and they
he
all
does. He
have
does.
really simple and unique core mechanics. And I think
Yep.
that's really neat.
At the end of the day, Dark Souls is that kind of experience. And, we can talk all about the lore, all of the graphics, all of the difficulty, which we, in the previous podcast, have determined to be not actually difficult. But at the end of the day, I think that's the key takeaway here is that Dark Souls is a game that's built upon simplicity. I mean, like, it shows in almost everything in the game, the way it handles its story, the way it handles
Mm,
the aesthetic. It doesn't try to be too
yeah,
complex. It and heck, it doesn't even have cutscenes. Like most of the time, like the amount of cutscenes you get amounts to less than 10 minutes
yeah.
in a game
It's
that's like
it's
what
really short
40
for
hours
a
long.
AAA title, but that's just the first thing. The second thing I think that makes the game really good, and really well done, is its pacing and progression. And they did this really unique thing where, at least it was unique in the first Dark Souls series, where if you die, then you can and you make it back. If you immediately make it back to the point where you died, you get all your stuff back from your first life. And
Yep.
so, the game, like where a lot of games, and we were talking about this last podcast, where a lot of games would tell you to put down the controller and take a break, Dark Souls says, "Come on, you can do better than that," and continues to challenge you to push forward. And that way of like creating a game mechanic without even like saying anything or doing anything, but creating a core mechanic that tells the player to try again and hone their skill and do better than the last time, makes the game extremely rewarding to play. Like it's not just that like you want to try again and you beat that place, but when you get back to that place and you beat the enemy that you right, it's not just that you
That
drop
killed you.
things. The enemy that killed you picks up the stuff you dropped. So you don't have to just get to where you were. You have to get a little bit farther. So as long as you can consciously develop your skill and get a little bit further, then you get everything back, and it feels really good. And so the game is designed to help you, to encourage you to develop these key skills that you need to beat it. And I think that's the thing. The thing is that when you play Dark Souls, you will feel yourself getting better in a way that you don't with other games.
Yep, definitely. Because your progress, it's palpable. Your progress becomes palpable because it's the difference between making it to this section of the castle to the other section of the castle. Like
Mm,
your blood stain essentially becomes a checkpoint for you to know, like, hey, I did better than I did last time.
yeah. And I'd say that's the other big thing about this game is, or at least the design of the game is, give players the tools to do something clever and surpass their own limits in previous play. And so that's something that I try to put into game is to give the player enough different ways to interact that they're never out of ideas. So like in Exceed, you have the different boosts on your cards and you have your attacks. So even if you don't have any attacks, you've got the ability to swap out your whole hand. You've got the ability to move around the field. You've got 7 different, like each one of these cards has a boost, which is a new special non-combat action that you can use to get the upper hand. So you have this giant toolkit, and you can use it to, to surpass the challenges ahead. Even if you don't see any obvious direct method to win, you've got
Yeah.
enough to get around it.
Yeah,
So
that's true. And
yeah,
and I think that's something that makes Exceed a little bit better than BattleCon in that respect. Because in BattleCon, like if you have a bad hand, you just take the loss. Essentially, you attack with the weakest whatever you have, and you just eat it, and you feel like you could do nothing. In Exceed, that rarely happens because you can always fish for more cards, mulligan your hand. You can always play boosts. You can always just move around the board for resources. It's crazy the amount of options it gives you, and it makes you feel like you have more. It's like
yeah,
you never hit the wall. That's what it feels like.
yeah. And I think I think those are two. Yeah, I think those are two important things that make Dark Souls really popular. I think there are two things that come out in BattleCon and Exceed as well. That you have a strong fundamental game, and in BattleCon that would be like your bases, and Exceed it would be your normals. You have these strong fundamentals, then they are split off in different ways to develop the design space, such as the the special moves in Exceed or the unique abilities in BattleCon. And then you also have the tool set to cleverly overcome obstacles that are ahead of you, so that you can adapt to the challenges as they arise. And the game pushes you to go one step further because you always have the opportunity to make a comeback. So like in Exceed and BattleCon, you can play perfectly and you can knock your opponent out of every attack. And so even at one life, you're never just, well, oh, it's over. There's nothing I can do about this. There's
Oh,
no
definitely.
there's no unwinnable board state. Well, there are unwinnable board states if your hand's empty and you got one life and your opponent has a full hand of cards. They just poke you and you die. But the point is, like,
It's
like
hard to get there.
yeah, like it's not over till it's over.
Yeah,
And
you have to basically dig your own grave for that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that pretty much does it for our Game Club game of this week. If you guys think that you are in for an experience that's similar to BattleCon or Exceed, you may want to check out Dark Souls. If you want to,
I don't know if that's the best way to sell it.
that's essentially what we talked about for the past 10 minutes. No, but seriously though, Dark Souls is a great game. If you guys haven't played it, any of the series, play it. Brad and I both recommend it. Yeah?
Yes, indeed. But
Indeed.
I would say start with Bloodborne, and then go to Dark Souls, because Bloodborne has less mechanics than Dark Souls. It gives you an idea of what the game is about, and then when you go into Dark Souls, you'll say, "Oh, I have these other tools." You'll be able to take your Bloodborne fundamentals and you'll be able to add the new tools that Dark Souls gives you. But if you go from Dark Souls over to Bloodborne, you'll be like, wow, I don't have anything I can do. Because Bloodborne, you have to think in a specific way, since you can't block and you only have a main weapon.
Oh, that's true.
So,
in my personal opinion, you should probably go the other way, because you don't want to play the best game first, because everything will just look bad in comparison.
I think Dark Souls 3, like I went Bloodborne and then Dark Souls 3, and I'd say Dark Souls 3 is a very good follow-up to Bloodborne.
Oh, okay.
And then I played Neo, which is the Ninja team, or is it the Ninja team? Whatever, the guys that made Shinobi, I think.
Ninja Gaiden?
Yeah, the guys that made Ninja Gaiden, those guys.
Yeah. Team Ninja.
Team Ninja. Okay, yeah, Team Ninja. I played Neo, which was by them, and like Neo adds a couple other layers on top of it, but it takes away the variety of weapons. There's only 5 weapons, but there's a lot of more ways to wield these 5 weapons. I didn't like that change. I felt like they took away some of the simplicity. Like Neo's still a great game.
Oh, they did.
But
they definitely did.
It's not as pure as the Souls series is.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to our character of the week. And Brad, our character of the week this week is a very special character to some fans' hearts, and for all of you competitive players out there, you're probably sick of seeing him, and it's Clive. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Clive. Yeah, Clive Melmont.
Melmont. Okay.
Melmont, yeah. Cool. Well, Clive is Mega Man / Astro Boy, in the Indians universe.
I love it. Unabashed.
Yeah.
It's just unabashed. All right.
He's Luke's apprentice, and he was built by or rather, he was almost killed in this terrible fire long ago, and they managed to save him, but he was basically his body was ruined. And so, with the help of one of his friends, a black mage, Luke built a robot body and then transferred Clive's soul into this body. So now he's like Ghost in the Shell. So he's Mega Man / Astro Boy / Ghost in the Shell.
Oh my goodness! So he's not a golem. He's
no. He's a robot. So he's powered by So he's yes, robot with a soul is basically the way to put it. He's powered by machines though, and not by magic like the rest of the golems are.
Oh, okay. So he has to refuel via oil or something.
And he probably has some kind of like power core that like Tony Stark. So he's Iron Man and Mega Man and Ghost in the Shell and
Alphonse Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist.
And Alphonse Elric. There you go. All right, I think he's all those. He's kind of all those things combined together. Um,
And he's also the cute little assistant. So he's a
yep,
role too.
yep. He's also. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, he's got all these gadgets. He's got all these gadgets. And he's kind of an inventor himself. So he makes all kinds of crazy stuff. And he works together with Luke, and together they fight crime. And um, that's sort of the whole story for Clive. Um,
So, so you're saying that he has gadgets, like
yep.
Inspector Gadget,
Yeah,
and he
like
fights crime
Inspector
with Luke,
Gadgets.
kind of like Robin and Batman. So
Yep.
he's all of these characters.
He
Actually,
is
he's
all
just an
references the
amalgamation.
character. Yes.
He's a meme. He's just a meme. That's who Clive is. Oh my goodness.
That
All
would
right,
explain
so
why some of our fans like him so much. Then.
yeah, dude. Clive is a very lovable character. Maybe it's also the fact that he's like a young boy, because not a lot of the characters are like children. You know, we
Yeah,
have like
they're
two
yeah. Most
children.
of the characters are adults, and that's kind of by design. I mean, I don't like to. I mean, it's not a shonen series, and so
Yeah, it's not.
I kind of
Okay.
want the characters to be. I don't like characters beating up on kids. It's basically the.
Level 99 games. We don't like people beating up on kids. I mean, that's a good slogan.
So I mean, I think the two youngest characters are Tanis and Clive, but they're both
Well,
like Tanis is a ghost, so you
she's
can
like
only
300 years
you
old.
can break her puppets and she'll cry. That's about it. And then Clive is a robot, so he could just be fixed.
He doesn't feel. Does he feel?
Um, maybe in an academic way, you know, like
So,
I know my sensors detect that hurt, you know, that I took damage, but not you know,
not like ow.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. Imagine just like this small little boy child, and it's like, you have cut off my left arm. Okay.
Let's. This is getting a bit grotesque. Let's
All right. All right. All right.
But
Let's talk about the gameplay.
well,
Let's talk about
oh
gameplay.
yeah. And well, there was one more thing about Clive that's coming to mind.
Oh,
And now
really?
I've forgotten. Oh yeah, the story of like how Clive was created, because Clive was one of our voter special, or like the characters that could be voted on for inclusion in Devastation. So when we
Oh.
launched Battlecon Devastation on Kickstarter, we had a pool of about 12 bonus characters, and some of our stretch goals were vote on the inclusion of a bonus character. And so we got two of those that were like community votes, and we got one that was
The
one
dark
slot
horse, right?
that you could buy. That you could
Oh, okay.
so you could buy a vote, and you would be the only one to vote on this third character. And the one person who picked that, voted and got his character, and then and it turns out that in the popular vote, Clive was at the very bottom of the pack. Like he was the actual least popular character in the popular vote to be included in the game. But he got the one
Oh.
vote from the person
Oh.
who, yeah. So he captured the heart of the player who bought the one vote pledge and got into the game. And since then, Clive has been a favorite of a lot of fans.
Yeah.
So once players got a hold of him and started playing the design, he really took off, and he's been one of the most popular characters in the series.
Well, yeah. I really like his design, and let's talk about
Yeah.
some
So
mechanics.
if not for one fan who loved the character, Clive would not be.
And I guess that makes him a dark horse. Then
I
you didn't
wouldn't call him
expect
that. I don't know about that, but I would say never underestimate your what your love for a character can do for that character in media. Because if it wasn't for somebody who cared enough to pick Clive, then he wouldn't be around at all. And so
And
not
now
just
he's in the hearts of thousands of Indians fans.
yeah, so not just with me, but tell your favorite artists and your favorite writers, and get in touch and tell them what you like about their work and the characters that you want to see more of. And I think you'd be surprised how many people, artists and authors and designers, are available to just talk and that want to hear how you like the series, because we don't make this stuff for the dollars. We make it because we want to entertain you.
And we love it because, well, you guys make great stuff. Great stuff.
All right, so I know you want to talk about the character mechanics. I'll stop cutting you off, Marco. Go ahead, tell us about Clive's gameplay.
Well, we can talk about mechanics about the character who is a robot who fixes things, who's a mechanic. Anyway, so Clive's entire gameplay kind of focuses on this, continuous building of his modules. He can
Modules,
keep
yeah.
adding a bunch of bonus stuff to all of his attacks. So he kind of builds up into this like death ball of stats and effects. The problem is though that the moment you mess up or slip up, all of your modules kind of like break and get destroyed. So it's like this precarious balance of like, do I start stockpiling more modules so I can snowball, or do I keep my modules at bay just in case this beat doesn't turn out real well for me? And that's a very interesting piece of gameplay from Clive, because he's basically that kind of character where he darts around the board, he hits you and stuff. He has a lot of effects. He's literally a toolbox in that sense. Clive ends up being one of the very, I would say he's a brawler, but he's like a snowball brawler, like the more and more modules he gets, the harder and harder it is for his opponent to deal with him. But the moment his opponent deals with him one beat, he's done. He kind of fizzles out after that point. Of course, he has his overdrive finishers to compensate, but that's besides the point. I want to focus on something here, and it's the fact that Clive ends up being one of the highest tier characters in the game. A lot of the community has agreed upon the fact that Clive might actually be the strongest legal tournament character in the game. So how does that make you feel, Brad? Did you expect this to happen?
No, not really. That's kind of a surprise to me. Actually, that's the first I've heard it is from you.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah. Ever since Force Gauge came out, that Force Gauge's ability to give Clive Stun Guard to basically on demand makes it almost impossible for him to lose his modules now. So Clive kind of just stockpiles on everything, and core shielding makes on-hit stuns not effective.
I could see how that would make him a bit stronger in this.
Yeah.
With the Force updates.
Yeah, and he just snowballs, and it's fun. I mean, like, so that's why a lot of competitive people. That's why I was joking that they're probably sick of hearing about Clive, because Clive is getting in there. I mean, like, he's not top picked right now, but a lot of the top players kind of agree that Clive's getting up there, and that he might be stronger than Seth, which I begrudgingly might have to agree with. So,
well, I think one thing that's really fun about Clive is that he's kind of clumsy. And so, like for example, he has this attack, like this rocket punch,
leaping,
and he punches you, and he pushes you back one space, and the force of the punch throws him back 3 spaces, or like all his modules
leaping.
Force him to move. Yeah, and he has a jump where he like jumps across the screen and tries to hit you, and he can jump over you and miss.
It's funny.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of cadenza in that regard, where like these movements are very structured, and it's very likely that if you don't do it just right, you're gonna overshoot and mess up. He's got a lot of his modules do forced movement, so he's got to like move forward and then back, and you kind of imagine this kid with like these like foot rockets that are not doing exactly what he wants them to do, and so he's trying to zip around and get into position so they can actually land his attack.
Yeah, in terms of mechanics, that all translates to a character that I feel is hard to pilot. Like, just because he's top tier doesn't mean it's easy to use him, And I feel like, learning how to control the modules and control the inherent clumsiness of the character, which is very fun. It rewards you with a character that's quite strong and quite powerful.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed
He's
the
a lot
character.
of fun. Yeah. And that pretty much does it for our character this week. If you guys want us to talk about any characters, not just BattleCon, but, Pixel Tactics, Exceed, Seventh Cross, Millennium Blades, give us anything you want us to talk about, and we will talk about it, because this podcast is for the fans and for disseminating information.
Our only thoughts to entertain you. So Garfield.
All right.
Garfield. Go read Garfield Strip 1. When I'm down, I open my browser and I just read Garfield for 30 minutes and picks me right back up.
Oh,
Memories
really?
from my childhood.
Wow.
Yep. I was a big Garfield fan as a kid.
Man, so you hate Mondays too?
No, I never got the I hate Mondays thing. And maybe it's just because I work, at my own pace.
Yeah,
and cartoonists don't have that luxury, so I can understand why, Garfield doesn't like Mondays. But I was never, too anti-Mondays.
Anti-Mondays. Actually, I have a friend who's anti-Tuesdays. Interesting, right?
That
anyway,
is interesting.
let's move on to 99 questions, which aren't 99 questions, but will be 99 questions. And
We're at, this is episode 15? 14?
14, 14.
14, okay. Well, cool. Well, it's episode 14, so we
14
will...
or...
No, I think it's 15.
Oh, wait, it might be 15. Yeah, it might be 15.
Yeah, it's up to 45 now. But yeah, hit me with the questions.
Oh, hit me with the questions. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Somebody asked a question that's for me.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well, I
heart.
don't have it, so I can't ask you the question. You're going to have to ask yourself the question.
Yeah, okay. So is it
That's
difficult to get games...
You should be asking yourself.
Oh no. And then I experienced a spiritual journey, and now back to the question. Is it difficult to get games in the Philippines, and how usually does it cost compared to elsewhere in the world? It's hard compared... It's less of the... there are no game shops here, but more of the there are not enough game shops here. So, like I have like 2, and one of them is like 3 hours away or something. So it's kind of hard in that sense. In terms of price, it's not that the games are usually more expensive to like a high degree, but you usually end up paying 50% more of what the game's usually worth. So like something like Battlecon or Millennium Blades, which is usually just $100, I usually end up paying somewhere around like, 150, 140 because of like taxes and shipping and stuff. So that's my question. Let's move on to the next question. Brad, I'm really mad that I have to get your games internationally, because they're usually so worth it, bang for buck, but the extra 50% tax add-on just ruins the value sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we know a few stores out in the Philippines, and I mean, I don't think it's any malice on their part. It's just that the cost of shipping across the Pacific is a little high, especially for limited amounts of specialty goods.
This is why you should invent instant teleportation so that I can get my games tax-free.
Well, yeah.
Get on that, Brad.
Then who would invent the games? I'd be too busy with teleportation.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so I guess teleportation's my job now.
Oh.
In addition to fixing the slogan to this podcast.
Yeah, who would fix the slogan to this podcast? You beat me to
it. Okay, next question. What is Level 99 Games' top-selling product?
Our top-selling product is, in terms of volume, it's Pixel Tactics. Like, we've sold more copies of Pixel Tactics than anything else. In terms of dollars, it'd be BattleCon, specifically Devastation. We've sold more dollars of Devastation than any other product. Although Millennium Blades, I think, is about to top that right now. So made more in like a year of Millennium Blades than we have in 4 years of BattleCon, which is kind of impressive, but a little frightening too. I mean, it's
such a good game.
It's really cool, but it's like a different level, because like I was like, just when you get the BattleCon formula down, now you've got a new game that you've got to start maintaining. But these big games are expensive to keep in print. Like, I mean, it's like, to print more Millennium Blades is super expensive.
Yeah, because it's like 700 cards. It's insanity, actually.
Yeah. So you are, as a publisher, you're taking on a much greater risk when you print 3,000 copies of Millennium Blades versus 3,000 copies of Pixel Tactics.
All right, and last question, which is, oh my goodness, it's for me again. What is this? What is this week?
It's like somebody picks these questions.
So it's like somebody picks the questions, right? Here, will there be a new series of Battle Guides videos once Dodge makes its official debut as the replacement for Dash? Mm-hmm. Okay, there are 2 answers to this question. One's the correct answer, one's the funny one. Funny one first. It depends if Brad pays me to do them.
Well, I will. I love the video series, and I think it's great for the community. So of course, I will continue my sponsorship.
Thank you. And number 2, I feel like it would be a second priority compared to making full guides for the characters that are coming out. Like all the Trials characters, all the Future Wanderer characters, talking about more in-depth strategy stuff. Because most of the time, Dodge is basically just Dash. It is almost the same thing. The difference comes in high-level play, And the thing is, the video series isn't for high-level players. It's for players who are early on or mid-level. Because if I want to talk about high-level plays, I'll have to talk about specific scenarios, specific tech, and that's just not something that translates well into a video format or a guide specifically, because it's like you don't go to a character guide to find out what you need to play against a specific other character when the board state is like this. That's untenable, because I wouldn't be able to make any videos that are less than 3 hours long if that were the case. So if we're going to talk about dodge stuff, it might just be its own separate video where I tell you guys like how the core systems change or how specific characters can change. In fact, that video is already out, so if you guys want to watch it, it's literally on YouTube right now. So there you go. And that pretty much does it for our 99 questions, which aren't 99 questions yet, but we're at, what's 15 times 3?
45, yeah. 45.
Wow. I'm in college and that took me a while. Anyway. I'm in CS too, so that means I have like what, over 20 units of math?
You should pre-plan these talks so that we know which number we're on.
Oh, yeah, that's true. All right. So, if you guys have any questions you want us to answer, Matt, Brad, or me, wow, this week, we can answer them. Just hit us up on our social medias and our forums. And finally, let's move on, last but not the least, to our wonderful, wonderful News 99 segment, where Brad spends the next few minutes telling you guys awesome stuff about level 99 games. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, we have some new announcements to show you guys. New stuff coming out. And the big one is our crossover with Penny Arcade. We've taken their series Automata, their short comic series, and we have built a new edition of Noir that uses the characters and styling from Automata. You can see that on our site right now, and it's available for pre-order. It's going to be out this fall. The game features the classic Noir modes. They've been rebalanced, so there's some new additional things like Citizen's Arrest that the Inspector has. And it features 2 new play modes. One is called Buddy Cop, which is a 3-player specific mode where you have 2 policemen and one villain. And then the other one is called Dragnet, which is a game where all the inspectors are playing against each other, trying to line up suspects in a conspiracy. So those are 2 really cool modes, and I'm really excited for the new game. The style of it is gorgeous. Laura's done a great job with the graphic design. Charlie's done a great job with the art, and so Automata Noir coming out soon. Also on Exceed, we have Carl as a fighter, so you can now play as and against Carl Swangy, the main character from the Automata series. And he's super cool. He's got his own card template and his own normals like all the other characters, and they're super stylish. But he also has a new mechanic, which is called Overload, and he can play a card. The Overload takes up a boost slot on some of his cards. He can play those cards together with any normal to EX that normal. So he has a lot of EX capabilities, and a lot of the ability to pump his attacks up during the play. Or during his set phase. So a lot of cool stuff for Carl. And if you get the $100 box, he comes in that along with all the other goodies. And if not, then you can get him as an add-on in the campaign. So check out the campaign and see Carl as well as the 16 guys we got for Southern Cross, because they're super cool.
The link for which will be found in the description down below. So do we have any more news, Brad, aside from the... You know what? If you had no more news for this week, I would be totally fine with that, because those 2 bombshells.
That's the big news. That's the big news. But I will have more for you guys in the next week or 2. So we do have other cool things happening. I just don't want to talk about them yet. I want to spread the news out, ration the news for the month of April, because we got a lot of cool stuff.
Okay, here's my news ticket. Give me my ration for next week. All right, and that pretty much does it for this episode of the Level Cap Podcast, your podcast for level 99 games. And games.
And all that are level 99.
Yes.
Yep.
I need to fix this. Anyway,
oh man,
if you guys
stick to the script.
stick to the script. if you guys want to talk to us, send us any comments, suggestions, characters of the week, or game club game suggestions, do please hit us up on our social media, comment on the blog site, comment on our YouTube video, anything, contact us, and we will try to make this content as wonderful and as enjoyable for you as possible. And without much else to say, it has been me, your host, Marco Dos Santos, also known as the Mechanic Critic, and with me is my co-host,
Brad Talton, also
and
known as D. Brad Talton Jr.
Ooh, wait, is that D or the?
D. It's a D. David. It's the first name. It's an initial.
Oh, okay.
Yep. All right. See you guys next time.
See you guys next week, and we will see you then. Bye.
Bye bye.